part of the finger. So that's how I can tell which way it was oriented. And then I can't quite see it from here, so I don't know if you can either, but there's, I went through and marked all of the details, those bifurcations, ridge endings, and dots that I could see in green and yellow. Yeah, I can see them now.
You can see the green and yellow?
I can.
So those are, obviously, those aren't part of the fuming process, the glue process there. Those are dots that you put on?
Yeah, those are dots that I put on to mark what I was seeing so I could document what I was seeing before I move on to my comparison. So those would be the features that I would use to search when I start looking at a known.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 55 up close. Let me ask you, from sitting here looking at that screen compared to looking at this image in front of you, is it easier to see on this image here up close or farther away?
I think it's probably easier to see on this.
Your Honor, if the witness could step down from the stand, then apparently those images are just not popping up very well there. Have her show them to the jury, please.
Can I take a look? I don't know. Yeah. Oh, now I see him.
All right, we're going to get a break in here. Before we do, let's check in with Kelly Hyman. She's a trial attorney and host of Once Upon a Crime in Hollywood. We find her in Miami this morning. Kelly, this case, it seems like a pretty tough road for the defense. And a lot of their opening was about the fingerprints on the gun that weren't tested, that this was a one-sided investigation. Well, they found a guy praying over the dead priest, and the gun's right next to him, and it's his gun, and the ballistics seem to match. Do you see anything anywhere where the defense has a legit opening, or what's your take?
Right. It's pretty powerful evidence. You bring up a really good point, Ted. I think they're just going to try and poke holes. I mean, that's a defense strategy to do, that the prosecutor has the burden when they bring the case to prove all the elements of the crime. But this is pretty compelling testimony and pretty compelling evidence. The fact that he was there, that he was praying, that it was his gun, and that, if the fingerprints, that's going to be key. That's going to be an uphill battle for defense counsel. Yeah,
we'll see for cross-examination how aggressive they go with this latent fingerprint examiner who examined the gun. We'll get a break in here, get you back into the courtroom right after this.
Friends found dead and a husband on trial for their murder. Will his unique defense be enough to sway the jury?
I didn't see anything like this.
Someone They Knew with Tamron Hall. Tonight, 7/6 Central on Court TV.
I'm Matt Johnson in Boise, Idaho, covering the Doomsday Cult Mom murder trial. When there's a verdict, you can watch it right here on Court TV Live.
Welcome back. Closing arguments set to begin at any moment in the Doomsday Cult Mom murder trial. Then it will be up to a jury to decide the fate of Lori Vallow Daybell. Prosecutors say Lori's twisted religious beliefs led to her and her husband Chad to murder and conspire to murder Lori's 2 children and Chad's first wife, Tammy. The defense claims she has an alibi for all 3 murders, although they declined to call any witnesses on her behalf, and she declined to take the stand. We'll have a live report coming up in just a bit from Boise, Idaho. Let's talk about this bit with trial attorney and host of Once Upon a Crime in Hollywood, Kelly Hyman in Miami. And we're getting real-time tweets from the old courtroom from our Chanley Painter. She's taken over the Court TV Twitter account, and the judge is basically going through the instructions. And Kelly, it takes a while, and there's several charges here, so we may be a little bit away from the closings. As we look forward to them, what do you think the state first, and then we'll talk about the defense, the theme of the state is going to be? It's such a complex case. This jury has heard weeks of testimony. How do you tailor it and smash it down for that last word?
Right. So I believe that the state's going to go back to its initial theme and talk about the money, the power, the sex theme that they started with the opening statement, and then show what the evidence, in fact, did show and walk through each one of the elements and show how that they prove this case. Now, this is where they can reach the jury and show them, hey, we said this at the beginning, that this was the reason why. It was money, it was sex, it was power, and we showed this. Now, defendants, when they did their opening, they talked about her and told the jury about her. And I believe that they'll try and poke holes and say that the state did not prove the case because the state had the burden and, in fact, did not meet what it was required to do.
The judge did deny the motion for a judgment of acquittal, as expected, that was filed today before the reading of the jury instructions. Once the jury instructions are finished and the closings are completed, the jury will be whittled down to the 12 deliberators, and then they'll be off to it to deliberate. How, you know, we can read the tea leaves. We try to figure out, well, how long will they be out? And we always get it wrong. Letitia Stalk, I'll be back in 2 minutes, and it took 8 hours. But what about this one? This is such a long, drawn-out case. On the other hand, a lot of these jurors could be thoroughly disgusted with her by the time they actually get this thing. What's your take in terms of where they're going to go at the end of the day? Has the state proven its case, and how long do you think it's going to take them?
Absolutely. So there's no rule of thought, but they always usually say that the faster that the jury comes out in a criminal case, that it's more leaning towards the state, that they have proved their case. But with such a long case and so many days, I could see this potentially going till Monday. But, you know, my crystal ball is broken, so they could come back on Friday, or they could we could be waiting, Ted, till next week, and still we don't have anything yet. So we're going to have to see how this one plays out. But if I had to guess, I would say, you know, they could come back early next week, or maybe sooner.
Yeah. You know, they'll get a little time today, but judging how this trial has gone, everything that they think is going to take an hour takes 2. You know, you got to think that they're not going to get the case until this afternoon, late this afternoon. And if that's the case, it's pick a 4-person and go home. A lot of times we see. And then they'll have all day tomorrow, though. We'll have to wait and see. What about on the defense close? They decided not to put on a case. She decided not to take the stand. And in the opening, it wasn't a clear Chad did it or Alex did it. It was more of the state doesn't have the goods to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you expect that to be the overarching theme, or do they pivot and start attacking? Because the evidence does support an Alex Cox is the murderer theme. We just haven't seen it cross that aggressively.
Right. I definitely think they're going to go back to the idea that the state hasn't proved and basically say, hey, the state brought the case, the state has a burden, let me show you what they need to prove. And because of that, and maybe go through the jury instructions and say, hey, walk them through the jury instructions and say, this is what based on this. And the state has not proven that, and walk through that. And then potentially, Ted, you bring up an excellent point that they could potentially, pivot and show also that in fact that it wasn't her, that it could potentially be someone else as well. That's a great point you bring up, Ted.
Because frankly, the evidence supports it. The evidence supports that Alex Cox was the trigger man, that he was the actual person that murdered the kids. Chad is the person they blame Tammy's death on, and she's in Hawaii at the time. It's just, being in that courtroom for a couple of weeks, the defense was muted. They didn't have this theme of Alex did it or Chad did it. It was very bizarre. It was hard to read where they are going. So maybe we'll get some clarity here in the closing arguments. Have to wait and see. They're still doing the jury instructions, and we know because we've made you watch some jury instructions over the years here at Court TV, and you think they're over, and then he's got a stack of paper this big and keeps going. So they're doing that. And as soon as the close begins, we will update you. And our Chanley Painter is live tweeting from the courtroom. She has a seat, coveted seat, inside the courtroom. Follow her. She's taken over the Court TV Twitter account. Let's go back now to New Hampshire. They're still on direct with this latent print examiner in the Brandon Castiglione case. We're waiting for Cross to start because that's where it's going to get real interesting, because the defense here is that this was a botched investigation and not enough testing was done. But let's go in live. It's still direct examination of this expert.
And both of those were determined to be Brandon Castiglione's left thumb.
That's correct.
And those were, again, on what two areas of the gun?
L1 was developed on the right side of the slide near the ejection port, and L3 was developed on the top of the slide more towards the end of the barrel.
So showing you State's Exhibit 11. So you said L1 is where? I'm going to come closer to you.
So L1 would be present right here on the slide, and L3...
I don't think the juror can see you behind.
Oh, I'm so sorry, sir.
So L3 would be present right here on this
L3
area.
or L1?
Oh, excuse me, sorry. L1 would be present right here, and L3 would be present in this area.
Everybody see down here? Just a moment, please, Your Honor. Thank you very much, Ms. Martinez. I don't have any further questions for you. I believe defense counsel will have a few.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You talked some about the training you've gone through to do what you do.
Yes.
And you said that you're certified in latent print examination.
That's correct.
And part of maintaining your certification is participating in ongoing trainings
Yes, that's correct.
to stay up to date on things.
That's true.
Always learning new things.
Yes.
You have participated in a training on minimizing bias in forensic decision making.
That's correct.
And that training talked about how having information about a case can bias a forensic examiner.
I believe it was talking somewhat about how it could potentially bias a person. That's correct.
Sure. And that bias can be unconscious,
It could be, yes.
meaning that the person isn't even aware that they have a bias.
That's possible, yes.
They're not aware that they've been influenced by information that they get.
That's correct.
And that training talked about how that's possible in fingerprint examination.
Yes, and it also talked about how to minimize it.
Okay. So let's talk about that just a little bit. Did it talk about a study where fingerprint examiners were given the same items on two different occasions and given different information about it?
I can't recall specifically.
Okay. But you do recall learning about bias or cognitive bias and how it could affect fingerprint examination.
I do, yes.
And you talked about steps to minimize that.
That's correct.
Steps to minimize that would include not having information about what you're going to be looking at.
To some extent.
Okay,
Yes.
not being told things about what someone else expects to find on it.
I don't think.
Well, let me rephrase that. I'm sorry, that was a bad question. For example, if you're looking to compare fingerprints, it could potentially bias a person if they know they're looking to find a match versus looking to exclude someone as a fingerprint.
We routinely have people listed that they've asked us to compare to. I've had times when I have found that person, times when I haven't found that person, so it doesn't really play that.
My question is, in the training you went through about minimizing bias, one of the things to minimize the bias is to not know whether you're looking to confirm a person or exclude a person. Is that accurate?
I don't believe that's what we talked about in that class.
You did cover that learning information about a case can have an unconscious bias on a person's examination.
I don't recall that being the premise of the class.
I'm asking if it was covered in that course.
Yes, it likely was covered.
Now, in this case, you wrote 2 reports ultimately, correct?
That's correct.
One was dated May 19th of 2020.
That sounds about correct. I'd have to check that date.
And the other was, if I said the other was written May 21st of 2020, have any reason to doubt that?
I know the work was done in May 2020, so that sounds close.
So just a couple days apart in May of 2020. And those were the days when you checked to see if the gun had any fingerprints on it.
Well, the work would have been done before the reports were issued.
Sure. Were the reports written on the same day that you conducted the work, or would they have been written a day or two after?
They would have been written after their summary of the completion of the work.
But within days of doing the work?
Yes.
So that work was done in May?
That's correct.
And so in May, you initially checked to see if the gun had any fingerprints on it?
That's correct.
And then after you found initially, I think, 3 prints, you said?
That's correct.
L1, L2, and L3?
That's correct.
And then you compared those prints to Brendan Castiglione's prints?
That's correct.
And prior to doing that, you had been in touch with Trooper Stephen Sloper. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Prior to testing anything, you had been told that Brandon Castiglione was a suspect in this case.
Yes, that's correct.
And you had been told that all the way back in November of 2019 in an email.
Yes, that's correct.
There was something else that was brought up in that email with Trooper Stephen Sloper back in November of 2019, and that was the possibility of testing for touch DNA. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And you explained to him, to the trooper, that with the textured grips, it would be unlikely to find fingerprints on the grips.
Yes, that's true.
And it would be unlikely to find fingerprints on the trigger.
I don't believe we mentioned any of that.
Okay. But you would agree it would be unlikely to find a usable fingerprint on the trigger?
It depends on what the trigger looks like. I can't recall whether it was textured or not, but...
Well, let me ask it this way. You ultimately did not test the trigger for fingerprints?
I believe it was swabbed for touch DNA.
Yes, it was. So we'll get to that.
Okay, that's going to be a sticking point, the touch DNA on the trigger and its testing. Let's go. We need a break in here. I want to update you on the Vallow case. The jury has been given a 15-minute break. The jury instructions are over. According to our Chanley Painter inside the courtroom, though, the judge has taken a break before the closing arguments, so we're getting close. As Chanley wrote on our Twitter page, the anticipation builds, and we'll update you as they move forward. We're going to break in here, get you back to Castiglione right after this.
A minister gunned down.
Now, a New Hampshire man stands trial for murder.
Prosecutors say they have fingerprint evidence found on a Glock handgun near the crime scene that links Castiglione to Garcia's death.
The defendant was allegedly found praying over the victim's body.
Court TV cameras are taking you inside the courtroom for every dramatic moment.
The murdered minister trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
back. We're still waiting for the closing arguments in the Daybell trial to begin. The jury on a short break. Let's go back to New Hampshire now, pick up more cross-examination with the latent print examiner who examined that gun, the murder weapon in this case, that the state says is the murder weapon. Let's go back in live.
Which disciplines you would like the items to go through?
Sure. And documenting the conversation you had,
Yeah.
what you had discussed. You also wrote a memo on May 26th of 2020.
That's correct.
Again, documenting another call you had had with Trooper Stephen Sloper.
Yes, this was after the work was completed.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you about that April 23rd conversation that you had with Trooper Sloper. Again, that was in April of 2020, correct?
April of 2020, yes, that would be correct.
Okay. And you conducted your tests in May of 2020?
That's correct.
So you had this conversation with Trooper Sloper prior to doing any testing?
I did, yes.
In your memo, you noted that Detective Sloper requested that the examinations, that you perform examinations that would potentially link Brandon Castiglione to that gun?
That's correct.
And again, he had previously told you that Brandon Castiglione was a suspect in this case?
It's routine for us to need to know who we have to compare to. If we don't have a suspect or someone named, we would not know who to compare the impressions to. So it's routine to know who the suspect is.
My question was, Trooper Sloper had informed you that Brandon Castiglione was a suspect in this case?
Yes, that's correct.
He also told you that the gun had been found near Brandon Castiglione.
Yes, he mentioned, I believe, in close proximity.
Okay. And he told you that before you conducted any tests?
Yes, sometimes we have to know where the item was found, because if the item had been found on this person, I would have suggested not doing fingerprints, because then it wouldn't have been probative to their investigation.
Now, Trooper Sloper told you to compare any prints that you found on the gun to Brandon Castiglione's prints?
Yes, that's correct.
And you were not told to compare them to anyone else's prints?
Not directly. I was informed that perhaps there was someone else who may have handled the gun, but that was, again, pretty routine and standard for an officer to handle an item at a scene. And he said he believed they were wearing gloves, so I did not think I needed to compare to that individual.
So your answer is yes, you were told to compare the prints to Brandon Castiglione's prints?
Yes, that's correct.
And again, you had been told that Brandon was the suspect?
Yes.
And that the gun had been found here?
That's correct.
A few days after you spoke with, well, let me ask it a slightly different way. You indicated a number of emails going all the way back to November, and then the gun wasn't tested until May of the following year.
That's correct. We went back and forth. I asked a question. He needed to get an answer. Someone, I believe, was on paternity leave. Then COVID hit. Everything shut down, so we didn't get a chance to connect until April.
He said he needed to consult with someone?
I believe so.
Would seeing the email help refresh your memory as to your conversation with him there?
Yes, it would.
just read that email to yourself? And does that help you remember what he told you?
Yes,
All right, we're going to, as we approach the top of the hour here, we're going to slip in a break here. The testimony is going to continue here. You can watch this if the Castiglione online. We are streaming it at CourtTV.com. We are also live tweeting from the courtroom. Our Chanley Painter has taken over the Court TV Twitter handle and live tweeting the closing arguments in the Daybell case. They haven't started yet. The jury is still on a break here before they've heard the instructions, so the next stop is the close, and it'll be Rob Wood for the state, followed by the defense. And again, our Chanley Painter will be live tweeting it, and we'll get an update from her and from Matt Johnson at the Ada County Courthouse very soon. In fact, we'll be getting them all day long. Coming up, though, the latest on Joran Vandersloot and the Natalee Holloway case. There's been some developments in this one. That's next. Following new developments in the disappearance of Natalee Holloway, the longtime suspect in that case, Joran Vandersloot, is now being extradited from Peru to the United States to face fraud charges. True crime fans will remember this one quite well. Natalee Holloway went missing on the island of Aruba back in 2005 on a high school trip. Her body was never found, and the case has never really been solved. U.S. prosecutors claimed that Vandersloot accepted $25,000 in cash from Holloway's family in exchange for a promise to lead them to her body. He never ended up pulling up his end of the bargain, and he ended up in a jail in Peru for another murder. Now that he's being extradited, he'll face trial in the U.S. on those fraud charges, which could provide some measure of justice for the Holloway family. Coming up, we'll bring you more testimony in the Minister murder trial for Brandon Castiglione. Plus, we will have a live update on the Doomsday Cult Mom murder trial for Lori Vallow Daybell. Closing arguments. It's all starting at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, but right now it's your True Crime at lunchtime. Up next is Forensic Files. This episode investigates the death of a husband found shot in Colorado in the wilderness. At first, investigators thought it was maybe a hunting accident, but new evidence points to murder. We'll see you back here live at 1 o'clock Eastern.